Aloha from Hawaii. Tech Today continues their coverage from the United States. I'm here now. Next pit stop was, of course, Hawaii at the Snapdragon Summit. And of course, this is their flagship event where Qualcomm, Snapdragon, launch the latest and greatest chipset. That chipset which will power all your premium flagship devices, Android devices in India. Most of them, Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo, OnePlus, they'll all be powered by that chipset. But why should I talk about it? I have the chipset with me. Now, this is sort of unusual that I'm showing you this particular chipset. Now, according to Qualcomm, this new processor is going to be 35% faster when we're talking about CPU, 25% faster in terms of GPU, and an AI improvement apparently of up to 435%. I think Qualcomm really means business when it comes to gaming, because now you're getting capabilities for ray tracing in mobile game applications. Also, the chipset has Wi-Fi 7 and always sensing camera capability and dynamic spatial audio support. For me, ray tracing on a mobile phone is a really big deal. Some high-end computers, gaming laptops struggle to give you good ray tracing capabilities. When you have a PlayStation 5, you need a TV which is compatible and shows you the real technology of ray tracing, which means the way light falls in that scene, even in a game, is completely different from how we've been used to all along. We saw a couple of demos, and at least the way Qualcomm claims it can be done, it looked fabulous. Let's see if these Android manufacturers can actually leverage the strength and the potential of this technology. Also, we saw a couple of interesting things where with this new chipset, translation tools in real time, multiple languages from one language to 2, 3, 4 other languages might just be possible. What does that mean maybe for the geophone? We'll have to see how these companies really synergize and collaborate. But that's the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. That's just my take on it. There's, of course, the Snapdragon team that we spoke to, and a very, very special person from Qualcomm who spoke to us about this new launch. On Tech Today, as always, we have a very special guest, but today, Don McGuire of Qualcomm, I have to say aloha.
Aloha.
What a pleasure to have you on the show, Don.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
I want to start off by asking you, Snapdragon Summit
Yes.
and Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Is this going to be a game changer, especially when we're talking about a world where Apple has their M2 now and their A-series Bionic chips, and then of course you have Google with Tensor. What is Snapdragon and Qualcomm all up to?
Absolutely. So 8 Gen 2 already proven to be a game changer, just in the initial announcement that we made yesterday, as well as if you look at tech specs and benchmarks, we are performing outstanding, way above any competition. Some of them that you just mentioned, I will not mention them, but you mentioned them. But it's really not about that. It's really about delivering on consumer and customer expectations around experiences. And for 8 Gen 2, which is really all about smartphone experiences, it's really about making your sound quality and your audio better. It's about making your gaming experience better. It's about making your camera better. It's about making your connectivity better. So it's really about these experiential pillars and delivering all of this with AI as a common thread, right, to kind of enhance those experiences. So that's what you saw yesterday in the keynote. That's what you're seeing in our announcement about 8 Gen 2. It really is a game changer. Once again, leading the industry, pushing the bar further, which is kind of what we're known for. So really, really happy and looking forward to a bunch of amazing new devices coming out very, very soon with 8 Gen 2.
We mentioned some competition as well, but a lot of these companies here in the US are now trying to build on an ecosystem. How important now is it for Qualcomm to change this branding image, this perception of being a smartphone chip manufacturer to a connected ecosystem company?
It's really important. It's part of our diversification strategy, right? So when you look at your smartphone, if you look at it at the core of the device that most people use to manage their life, but then you've got things that connect to it, right? You might have a smartwatch, you might have earbuds, you might look for interoperability between your phone and your car, right? As you get in and you transfer your applications from phone mode into car mode, that all requires interoperability. And that requires a connected ecosystem. So if you're looking Snapdragon to Snapdragon or Qualcomm to Qualcomm, we have secret sauce and lots of magic that makes that experience better. We talked about it a little bit in the context of Snapdragon Sound yesterday when Sarah was on stage. Snapdragon Sound in the phone is great, but it's also in the earbud. then there's that connectivity, that fabric that makes your experience both in your earbud and on the phone much better. So that connected ecosystem is very important, and we're talking about more of that today than yesterday, but we've got the chops to make that happen. And we have the ecosystem of partners to make that happen. We announced some enhanced relationship with Bose, for example, on the audio side. So it's important that people have alternatives, and that, by the way, that they have alternatives that are much better than just settling for something that is either the status quo or the current preferred solution.
It's a chilly winter here in the US, maybe not here in Hawaii.
Right.
Of course, there's so much happening in the tech world, layoffs galore at Twitter and Meta. As a tech leader yourself, what is your broader view on what's happening in the tech world, and what's Qualcomm's view on this as well?
Sure. I mean, the macroeconomic environment is tough right now. We see the environment that we're in and the impact that it's having as cyclical. And it really comes down to supply and demand and inventory. As the pandemic set in, there was lots of people that needed to upgrade their device ecosystem to stay connected to family and friends and work and school. So that drove a massive demand increase across different product categories. Unfortunately, there wasn't the supply to be able to handle that demand. So we had this supply issue.
Right.
But as things started to ease and we started coming out of the pandemic, the supply chain issues started to ease, but also the demand started to slow. But the inflection point was missed by the value chain. So our customers continued to buy, right? Because they didn't want to get caught into a supply chain issue again. But the demand curve had started to slow. So inventory started to build. And then we enter, Q4 of this year, where you've got high levels of inventory, no supply chain issues, demand weakening in goods, demand increasing in services, in travel and experiences, and there's discretionary spend shift.
Right.
So we have to correct this. This all has to be corrected. Inventory has to be kind of flushed through the value chain. And we think that's a couple quarters. We said in our earnings call, over 50% will probably happen in this next quarter, and then the rest in the subsequent quarter. And then we get to a normal supply chain balance, and then we can start to grow again. And I think our ecosystem starts to grow again, our customers start to grow again. So it's about powering through, but it's also about being prudent and diligent in this kind of environment. How do you manage spend? And how do you manage your capital and your resources so that you're in a position of strength on the other side? And I think each company has to look at that differently. Obviously, we are looking at spend. We are looking at things like travel. We are looking at hiring critical positions only, and we are looking at balancing that spend with demand and revenue in the short term, but without taking our eye off the ball for the long term, because you have to invest to grow so that you come out on the other side in a position of strength.
We really appreciate you joining us on the show. Thanks so much, and we hope to have you very soon again on Tech Today.
Yeah, thanks so much.